in the 5th round. But everybody, not some, not a few, when everybody during this pre-draft process said he is one of the best quarterbacks in this draft, and 4 other quarterbacks go before.
Let me be real with you. I still can't wrap my head around it. Shedeur Sanders, projected by nearly every major draft analyst to be a top 5 quarterback in this class. The guy who led college football with elite accuracy, completing over 70% of his passes behind one of the worst offensive lines in the country. The guy with the poise, the processing, and the mechanics that scouts literally called NFL ready. And he's drafted in the 5th round, the 5th. Make it make sense. This wasn't a quiet little oversight. This wasn't some sleeper pick slipping through the cracks. This was a full-blown failure of NFL scouting. And I don't use that word lightly, because if you watched Shedeur in college, if you saw him navigate collapsing pockets, read defenses like a veteran, and still put up numbers that should have had him in the first-round conversation, you know exactly what I mean. And here's the part that really gets me. 4 quarterbacks with weaker resumes went ahead of him. 4 guys with lower completion percentages, less experience in pro-style systems, some with glaring mechanical issues. They heard their names called while Shedeur sat and waited. For what? Because he played at Colorado? Because he had a last name that invited more scrutiny than praise? Because the media spent more time dissecting his family than his film? You tell me. But let's not pretend this was about on-field concerns. It wasn't. This felt like a narrative-driven slide, and it feeds into a bigger problem. The NFL still hasn't figured out how to separate media noise from actual football evaluation. And yet, this 5th rounder walks into Cleveland and immediately starts looking like one of the most NFL-ready quarterbacks in the entire class. Go ahead, watch the camp reports. Read what people at ESPN Cleveland are saying. A 70% completion rate in drills, mechanics that are smooth and polished, decision-making that screams veteran presence, not rookie hesitation. Even in simple throwing drills, no defense, no pads, Shedeur stood out. And I don't care how much you want to downplay throwing on air. If he's outshining guys like Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dillon Gabriel at the most basic level, what does that tell you? It tells you the gap is real. This isn't luck. This isn't a fluke. This is a franchise that accidentally stole one of the best quarterbacks in the draft. I'll say it. Cleveland pulled off a heist. They didn't just get value in the 5th round. They got a guy who should have been gone 50 picks earlier. And that's why this moment matters. Because while the rest of the league overthought it, while the scouts nitpicked him to death, the Browns just stumbled into a quarterback who could change everything. And if you think that's an exaggeration, stick around. Because once the pads go on, once this QB room battle heats up, the conversation about Shedeur Sanders is about to get a whole lot louder. And that's where this story really starts. Not with a 5th round draft slip, but with what happens when a chip on his shoulder quarterback decides to prove everyone wrong. Let's talk about this Browns quarterback room, because if you think this is just another run-of-the-mill competition, you're not paying attention. This isn't a depth chart. It's a pressure cooker, a powder keg waiting for a spark. And right now, Shedeur Sanders might be the one holding the match. Start with Kenny Pickett. You know the story. Drafted by Pittsburgh to be their future, handed the keys, and in 2 seasons, 13 touchdowns. 13. That's barely won a game. Add 13 interceptions and a Steelers offense that looked allergic to the end zone, and suddenly, the future becomes expendable. That's why he's in Cleveland. Not because Pittsburgh couldn't live without him, but because they could. He's a bridge quarterback, a placeholder, a veteran face that looks safe on paper but doesn't scare anyone on Sundays. Then there's Dillon Gabriel. I'll give him credit. The kid is sharp. He processes fast. He's savvy. He's got that coach's son type of football IQ. But here's the problem. This isn't Norman, Oklahoma. This is the NFL. And in the pros, those windows that looked open in college, they slam shut before you can blink. Gabriel's arm talent is fine, not great. His size, a concern. And when the game speeds up, and it always does, will his smarts be enough to compensate? That's the gamble. And of course, Joe Flacco. Super Bowl MVP, veteran, steady hand. The guy who walked in last season and gave Cleveland a little hope when things were unraveling. But let's be honest, Joe's 39. He's not the future. He's barely the present. He's here to teach, to keep the ship steady, maybe win a game or two if disaster strikes. But he's not here to carry a franchise back to relevance. So what does that leave? It leaves Shedeur Sanders, the wild card, the rookie with the chip on his shoulder, the charisma to own a locker room, and the poise of someone who's been here before. This is the guy who can walk into a room full of veterans and make them believe. And in Cleveland, that matters more than anything. Because this city has been through quarterback hell. You've seen the jersey. That infamous jersey of broken promises. Names crossed out one by one. Couch, Quinn, Whedon, Manziel, Mayfield, Watson. All of them came with hope. All of them left with disappointment. And that's why this QB battle isn't just about football. It's about identity. Who are the Browns? Are they the team that plays it safe, rides with the placeholders, and keeps crossing names off that cursed jersey? Or are they the team that finally takes a chance on the guy who could change everything? Because here's the truth. If Shedeur is already outperforming the room in practice, how long before Kevin Stefanski has no choice but to play him? And that's when the real fireworks start. Let's get one thing straight. The disrespect towards Shedeur Sanders has been loud, relentless, and at times, downright ridiculous. We've seen the headlines. The speeding ticket controversy plastered across social media like it defines his career. Tony Grossi going on air with a straight face and predicting Shedeur will spend a lot of this season inactive on Sundays. Inactive? For a quarterback with this pedigree, this poise, and this kind of production? That's not just doubt. That's disrespect. And then there's the lazy narrative we keep hearing. He doesn't know the terminology. Really? That's the excuse we're running with now. A rookie quarterback who's learning an NFL playbook somehow doesn't deserve credit for what he's doing on the field because of terminology? Make it make sense. But here's what the critics won't tell you. The people actually in the building watching Shedeur every single day are saying something very different. ESPN Cleveland reported he's been firing confidently into tight windows, making throws that only seasoned pros attempt, and carrying himself with the kind of mental sharpness you don't usually see in a rookie. They're talking about his NFL-ready mechanics, his ability to process quickly, his calm under pressure. That doesn't sound like a kid struggling to read a playbook. That sounds like someone who knows exactly what he's doing and is already pushing the veterans around him. And you know what? This isn't the first time we've seen this story play out. Tom Brady was a sixth-round nobody, too slow, too average, not NFL-ready. Aaron Rodgers, humiliated on draft day, sitting there as team after team passed him over. Jalen Hurts, benched in the national championship and told he'd never be an elite NFL passer. All of them heard the noise, all of them lived with the doubt, and all of them weaponized it. That's what separates the great ones from the rest. They don't just take the disrespect, they sharpen it into a blade and come back for blood. That's exactly what we're watching happen with Shedeur Sanders. He's not running from the criticism. He's not clapping back on social media or throwing pity parties. He's letting his game speak. He's using every slight, every snide comment, every dismissive take as fuel. And that's why this should scare everyone in that Browns quarterback room. Because a talented rookie is one thing, but a talented rookie with a chip on his shoulder, one who's been underestimated his whole career and knows how to weaponize that? That's a dangerous man. And that's why this isn't just about surviving training camp for Shedeur. This is about proving everyone wrong and rewriting his story in real time. And if history tells us anything, quarterbacks with this kind of edge don't just survive, they take over. Let's be real. What we're seeing from Shedeur Sanders didn't come out of nowhere. This isn't just raw talent that magically showed up in Cleveland. This is the product of a blueprint, a very specific one, the prime blueprint. When you grow up as Deion Sanders' son, you don't just learn how to throw a football. You learn how to carry yourself when the cameras are flashing. You learn how to craft your narrative before the media can write it for you. You learn how to outwork everyone in the room, not because anyone is watching, but because greatness demands it. That's what Deion passed down, the swagger, the showmanship, and most importantly, the relentless preparation. But here's the thing, Shedeur isn't just copying Prime, he's evolving him. This is Prime 2.0. Shedeur is playing the game on and off the field at a level most rookies can't even comprehend. He's not just signing NIL deals, he's in the room co-creating them. He's not just letting ESPN and Twitter tell his story, he's producing his own content, controlling his own narrative, giving fans access to the unfiltered version of who he is. He's building his personal brand with the same precision he uses to read defenses, calculated, deliberate, fearless. And in today's NFL, that's not a side hustle, that's power. But don't get it twisted, the flash hasn't replaced the grind. If anything, it's fueled it. We saw it at Jackson State. Shedeur didn't just parachute into an HBCU program as Deion's kid. He transformed it. He elevated teammates, embraced the chaos of a national spotlight, and showed poise far beyond his years. Then came Colorado. And if you really want to know what a quarterback is made of, you watch him when everything around him is falling apart. That offensive line? Historically bad. The pressure? Relentless. Yet Shedeur still threw for over 3,200 yards and 27 touchdowns, taking hit after hit and never blinking. That's what competitors do. They find a way. And here's the part that should have Cleveland buzzing. Shedeur's not just a quarterback. He's a cultural force. He understands what it means to be the face of a franchise in 2025. It's not just about third and long conversions or red zone efficiency. It's about inspiring your locker room. It's about connecting with your city. It's about making the Browns, this franchise that's been starved for leadership, believe again. This isn't just a kid trying to win a depth chart battle. This is a young man stepping into his father's shadow, reshaping it, and turning it into his own path. And that's why when Shedeur says, "It's about to be time to be legendary," you believe him. Because everything in his journey, from the blueprint Prime gave him to the evolution he's built himself, says that moment is coming. And if this is what he's bringing before taking a single NFL snap, just imagine what happens when he finally takes the field. Cleveland, listen to me when I say this. You might be staring at your future right now, and I don't mean the maybe he'll develop in 3 years kind of future. I mean the kind of future that changes a franchise forever. The kind of future that turns decades of pain, heartbreak, and disappointment into something different, into hope, into belief, because that's exactly what Shedeur Sanders represents for the Cleveland Browns. This wasn't just a draft pick. This was the heist of the century. While other teams were overthinking, overreaching, and overdrafting quarterbacks who may never pan out, the Browns accidentally landed the most NFL-ready quarterback in the entire draft, in the 5th round. Let that sink in. And yet, because this is Cleveland, because this is a fan base scarred by the jersey of broken promises, I get the hesitation. You've seen the hype before. You've been told, this is the guy, only to watch it all fall apart. But here's the difference. Shedeur isn't selling you hope. He's showing you preparation. He's showing you poise. He's showing you that everything he's done, from thriving behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football to outclassing veterans in your own training camp, wasn't an accident. It's who he is. It's who he's always been. Think about it. How often do you get a quarterback with this level of pedigree, this level of production, and this level of mental sharpness, just sitting there for the taking in the 5th round? You don't. That's why this doesn't just feel like a lucky pick. It feels like fate. It feels like the football gods finally said, "Okay, Cleveland, you've suffered enough. Here's your shot." But now it's on you, the fans, the city, the franchise, to recognize what's sitting in front of you and rally behind it. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just trying to make the roster. He's trying to take ownership of this franchise. He's trying to rewrite the narrative that's haunted this team for 25 years. He's trying to give you more than a quarterback. He's trying to give you a reason to believe again. And that's why the question isn't whether Shedeur Sanders can be great. The question is whether Cleveland is ready to embrace him as the guy who can finally carry this team forward. So here's my challenge to you, Browns fans. Stop waiting for permission to hope. Stop bracing for heartbreak. Start rallying around this kid like the future of your franchise depends on it, because it just might. Are we witnessing the birth of a franchise savior? We're about to find out. And when that moment comes, you're going to want to say you were here from the very beginning, because this doesn't feel like another false dawn. This feels like the start of something legendary,